Hi everyone, I'm hugely intimidated following Femi. Thank you so much for your opening keynote. And hopefully you'll see in Women in Publishing something of a practical response, a grassroots action, if you like, to address the challenges that you've laid out. So almost 2 years ago, my TNF colleagues Eva Klorek and Amy Card were discussing Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In and decided a lunchtime book club would be quite a fun thing to do. Around the same time, I nominated one of my colleagues, Carolyn Kirby, for the Kim Scott Walwyn Prize. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but it's a prize open to any woman working in publishing in the UK who's been in the industry for less than 7 years. And it recognises the professional achievements and promise of women in publishing. Eventually, these two conversations came together and Women in Publishing was born. So we had a meeting, we had a couple of conversations, and a few weeks later, the four of us hosted our first event with 90 attendees, 2 inspirational speakers, including our HR director, Dami Patel, who was at the time the only woman serving on the TNF board, and Kudos co-founder Charlie Rappel. So talk about snowballing from lunchtime book club to 90 people. In our first year, things developed organically, and we held another general career hints and tips session with senior women from sales and editorial. We recorded and promoted a video with Natasha Devasar, who's TNF's managing director of India. And we also invited a professional development coach called Jane Lewis to come and talk about mentoring and coaching. That was our first event, some pictures. In 2018, we've held a panel on publishing and technology and women, and have welcomed TNF's CEO, Annie Callanan, to speak on leadership. And we also heard from 3 women leaders in marketing and process improvement on career pathways. Finally, just a fortnight ago, we hosted a session on imposter syndrome, which was facilitated by Sarah Durant, a professional leadership development coach for the information industry, which is probably one of our most successful sessions to date. Another innovation for 2018 was our workbook sessions. So TNF employees, as part of Informa, have access to a platform called Every Woman, which contains career development resources tailored to women, webinars, blogs, articles, TED Talks, workbooks. And committee member Siobhan Greeny joined our committee because she had an idea around facilitated workbook review sessions. So a group of colleagues get together, commit to completing a workbook by a certain date, and then do a review session of the workbook, what they liked, what they didn't like, together. And by that means, colleagues are encouraged to engage with and benefit from the resources that we already have. It's always hard to find time to put into that stuff. It's much easier if you've made a commitment as a group of colleagues. So perhaps I should have started with who we are and what we do, but honestly, that's not really how it happened. It really did happen as a kind of snowball effect. We started doing all of the above that I've just told you about before we really thought about who we were, what we were, and our objectives. So Eva Klorek's drive to make WIP happen, Eva's in the bottom picture there in the centre, led to her highly commended award at the Informa Awards, that's our cross-division employee recognition awards, in spring this year. Unfortunately, just at the same time, Eva had to step away back from Women in Publishing because she had loads of other commitments. But myself, other committee members, including Shelley, who's in the room, and other new committee members joined, and we were able to keep pushing forward. Without Eva's singular vision, though, we felt we needed a shared goal or understanding. We'd also secured meetings with our HR director and with TNF CEO Annie Callanan, so we felt it was a good time to set a set of objectives for us as a group, define who we are, our mission and objectives. So who are we? Well, this is the current committee. We are an employee-run group who are self-organising and self-motivated. Sounds terribly wholesome, doesn't it? We are independent of the company we work for, although we must acknowledge the support and encouragement we have received from TNF senior management, and I will elaborate on that a bit later. We self-generate the ideas for our events and expend all the effort needed to make them happen by ourselves. We use our spare time to fulfil women in publishing activities, though that's not to say I haven't done the odd thing on company hours. The committee is currently all women, although there's no reason why that might not change in time. We come from across the business, book and journal divisions at TNF, which is usually a divide you never cross. Editorial, production, marketing and sales. The longer serving members of the group are generally around a decade into their careers and hold manager roles, although we've recently welcomed some members who are early career. So why do we do it? Generally, we're all motivated by an interest in the experiences of women in the workplace and want to positively impact the lives of our colleagues. I can't speak for my fellow committee members, maybe Shelley can tell you a bit about her motivation later, but I'm personally motivated by enjoying development and mentoring. And through Women in Publishing, I get to do that for 90 people a quarter instead of this 2 people on my team, which is great. I love that. I also get to plan events that I would benefit from. So most of the stuff I've done, including women publishing in technology, was because I need to know stuff about this area. So hopefully other people get to benefit too. I'm also motivated by something of a sense of powerlessness in the face of macro, political, social things that make me angry. That sense of not being able to do anything about it as an individual, but here is something that I do as an individual action, and I feel it makes a demonstrable difference to the lives of people around me. So this is what we came up with as a set of objectives. I don't really want to read them out, so I'll leave them up there for you to ponder. And since creating this mission, we have consciously sought to meet at least one objective, preferably more than one, with each event that we have organised. So these were written in early 2018, and we recently revised them to take out all the mentions of women. For instance, we're facilitating professional and personal networking at Taylor & Francis, and we want that to be for everybody at Taylor & Francis. But we're motivated by how it will benefit the women. One criticism that you might make of these objectives, and I know I have in the past, is they're not very smart in the SMART language and quite vanilla. And there is one thing that is notably absent, and that's advocacy and measurable goals. And I think that's because we're brand new and we're kind of just getting our feet. But we also took the decision that we would be non-political with a small p. An example of this is that we've not, as a committee, taken a position, if you like, on, say, for example, the gender pay gap. And we declined invitations from TNF HR and from the TNF branch of the NUJ to co-host sessions on the topic. And the reasons that we've done this are we're all a self-appointed committee. We've all kind of gotten involved because of our own personal interest, and therefore we don't feel that we can actually represent the women of TNF in that advocacy way because we're not elected. Nobody has agreed to our particular viewpoint on things. We felt that our group and events would hold more appeal across the spectrum of TNF and colleagues, including men, if we did not emphasise advocacy. We wanted to provide practical support to colleagues to overcome challenges of their careers and not just be a talking shop to rehash the same reasons for why women were not progressing at TNF as much as men every time. And conversely, that we would have more influence as well if we remained neutral. That said, it is something the committee have debated a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have start introducing more stronger language around advocacy and targets into our mission in the next year or so. So what are our markers of success? Well, we have a lot of people coming to events. So these are some of the events we've held in the past couple of years and the numbers of people who are coming to them. These are the in-person attendees, not the home workers and colleagues in other offices, both globally and in other informal divisions who've been joining us remotely. We normally open a live conference call and latterly have had video and post the recording to our company portal. We get some amazing feedback. about our events. I've got 2 slides, so I'll just leave them up while I keep talking. The tail end of 2017 saw the launch of the Women in Publishing Philadelphia chapter. So my colleague, Caitlin Sheeder-Borelli, was participating in a WIP session. Sorry, we call Women in Publishing WIP, because it's easy, quicker. When she was visiting the UK office, and she wanted to replicate for our large office in Philadelphia. So they've had an internal panel of women in key leadership positions who talked about female identity and how that's influenced their career trajectories. They've also hosted a Becoming Assertive session, particularly addressing gender bias. And they're planning a group volunteer day at the local organisation Literacy for Girls, which I think is a lovely idea. We've also had really high levels of engagement on our Women in Publishing Yammer. That's our internal social media channel. We have 465 members of the group as of a few days ago. And it's not just the committee posting, it has been really active and engaged. One of my favourite things about the WIP Yammer is become a place to highlight and celebrate the success of women in the company. For instance, when there's been an outstanding marketing campaign, or recently we celebrated the success of one of our pre-press suppliers who achieved a listing in the 100 best companies for women to work at in India. We've received encouragement from TNF's, this is our Yammer. We've received encouragement from TNF CEO Annie Callanan, HR and the Learning and Development team. They provide us with modest financial support, which we use for equipment, travel expenses, speaker fees. We try to get people to come and do pro bono, but when they have small businesses, it doesn't seem fair. The company also endorse events by allowing us to hold them in the communal spaces in the office, and we hold events at lunchtime usually, but colleagues joining remotely do that during work hours. TNF's internal communications team are amazing, and they help us by sending the invites so we can get them out to beyond the people just signed up to our Yammer group. And they also help with recording in the remote delivery, which means we've got a much wider footprint than we otherwise would have. And the facilities team help us set up the events. So TNF do help facilitate it, but we still have editorial control, if you like. And one of my colleagues in L&D has even credited Women in Publishing with the high take-up of the Every Woman platform. Apparently TNF has much higher take-up than other Informa divisions, and apparently that's due to us. And it has led for HR and L&D professionals from the other divisions of Informa coming to talk to us, Women in Publishing, about what we're doing, which is really interesting. But we have had challenges, and this is where the title of my presentation kicks in. TNF is 60 to 70% women. So do you really need a Women in Publishing group anyway? Yes, Femi?
Sorry, so was the quote up there? What you were reading, sorry.
Oh, no. Sorry. Do you really need a Women in Publishing group anyway is definitely something that we've heard a lot. My answer to this has always been, well, look how many people we've got coming. It suggests we are meeting a felt need. Despite our numbers within TNF, we had only one woman sitting on the board until relatively recently. The median gender pay gap reported by Informa, our parent company, was 23%. That drops to 8% for TNF. But the mean pay gap was 24%, with a median bonus gap of 22%. So those numbers really speak for themselves. And Women in Publishing featured in Informa's Talent Action Plan, which was the supporting literature that accompanied the release of those numbers, demonstrating the value that TNF perceives in Women in Publishing and what we're doing. So another comment has been, why women? Why be specific in the name of the group? Why appear to be exclusively for women? Why not be about all people in publishing? And I think it's a fair point. The short answer is, isn't that HR and L&D's job? To provide development programs for staff, irrespective of race, gender, sexuality, etc. But by trying to meet all the needs that exist, you risk ending up not meeting any of those needs. or at least not engaging with how the workplace experience can be different for different groups of people because of those characteristics, as Femi has so eloquently told us about this morning. We've always been clear that our events are open to all, and we've had men attend and participate. Everyone can, we hope, derive value and benefit from the content. However, without our overarching theme of women, I feel that we sort of lose our raison d'etre, our focus for developing content, our personal engagement and motivation as well. One point that Shelley has made to me many times is that highlighting and addressing one issue, in our case gender, does not mean that we don't feel other issues are not equally, if not more important. And I personally feel, and maybe we can talk about this later in the panel, that gender, or representation of women, is the least pressing diversity and inclusivity concern for our industry. However, if we struggle to achieve representation for women in the upper echelons of the industry when women are in the majority more generally, then I worry how the industry is going to effectively tackle more pressing concerns, such as ethnicity, race, sexuality, disability, and class. Has women in publishing been appropriately intersectional? Probably not. Probably mainly due to the current makeup of the committee. However, I hope that the committee continues to evolve alongside the TNF workforce, but in an organic and non-tokenistic way. We also take an interest in diversity and inclusivity initiatives more generally, and hopefully we'll be able to share our experiences and collaborate with other groups. Another challenge has the challenge of becoming overnight experts in diversity and inclusion. When, I just wanted to do a book group. And also hearing from colleagues about stuff that they should go to HR with as well has been one of the challenges that I know both Shelley and I have faced. Colleagues also assuming that our work with WIP is in an official capacity, which they bring expectations with them, that we should help them with particular things. So we've been called in to comment on or help in the conversation with an editor on all sorts of diversity and inclusion topics when we're definitely not experts. And making that distinction between what is TNF and what is women in publishing has also been a challenge. A lot of the people, even people who come to the events, think we're official TNF. We've even had complaints from colleagues that it's not at a convenient time for them. They'd like it to be in the US lunchtime, for instance. So I'm taking care of my son during US lunchtime, sorry. I can't facilitate an event at that point in the day. So a little bit on our challenges. What's next? We've almost got all of our events scheduled for 2019. We have Adrienne Hopkins, Head of University of Oxford Equality and Diversity Unit, coming to talk to us about Athena Swan and about women in research. We are planning a well-structured speed networking event and may even tackle such topics as negotiating your salary, which I don't think HR are going to like very much, and practical tips for working parenting, which we shied away from as a topic thus far, but maybe we're brave enough now. My colleagues on the committee just launched a survey to get feedback, and the group itself in order to improve what we offer, and we're holding a Christmas party on Monday. We are planning to expand what we do in two main ways. We're going to steal an idea from the Philadelphia group and try to find organisations to partner with for volunteer days that women in publishing followers will hopefully be motivated to do. So TNF offers employees 1 paid volunteer day per year, or 2 if you're using your publishing skills, and organising trips to events which appeal to the wider group. So for the first of these will be a trip to see the Guilty Feminist podcast recording in Oxford next year. So I'm hugely proud of what we've achieved with women in publishing, and I've derived an immense enjoyment, if a little stress, I've got to be honest, from my involvement. What I wanted to do today was to move beyond the facts, stats and reasons for the importance of diversity and inclusivity in our industry and workplaces, and rightly we've heard a lot about that this year, but I was hoping to give a little bit of an insight into a practical grassroots response to those chorus calls, and hopefully leave you a little bit impressed about what we've achieved in our spare time. Thank you.